Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast. Well, hello, everybody. It's good to see you again. I just took a little break and decided to come back and say hello. So hello to everybody. I just want to thank you for listening, of course. I'm Brett Davis, and coming to you from the beautiful Attorney King studio in Coronado. I'd like to thank Attorney King for his support, his friendship, and all he does for the community of San Diego. Also like to thank, of course, Saquon Casino Resort, who does a wonderful job every year and very, very involved with the community as well, and supporting and giving contributions every way they can. And just, they're a great partner in the San Diego community. And of course, I'd like to thank Bonafacetta for some of the amazing Italian food. They have great food. I don't know if you had a chance to eat at Bonafacetta. They have them around San Diego. There's like 4 of them. Highly recommend their food. Very good Italian food. And of course, IB Fitness, and of course, Marina Teal for what she does. And we love doing your podcast all the way from Houston, Texas. So today, of course, we are having 2 guests that are also friends, and I support their foundation. And you probably have heard about them before, but they have a new book. Of course, they're going to be talking about, it's called A New Creation, Finding Meaning in the Midst of Tragedy. Beth and Brad, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, Brad.
And of course, is it the Thorp Foundation? Did I say it correctly?
Mitchell Thorp Foundation.
Mitchell Thorp Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a wonderful foundation. And when a mutual friend of ours, George Jackson, introduced me and brought me to come to some of your dinners with my wife, we were really just so, it was a day of celebration, but also tears. But also the idea and the thought of other families and other children being helped from your experience. There was some joy from that.
Yeah.
There always is. And to have some of those families there and to hear from them and how much the foundation helps support these families, it's, always, that's the tearful joy that we get and the emotional impact that the foundation brings to those types of events.
Right.
So how long has the foundation been around now?
It's been around 13 years. And for your audience, if they aren't familiar with the Mitchell Thorp Foundation, it's obviously in memory of our son, Mitchell, which we'll talk about in a minute. But our mission was to support families with children with life-threatening illnesses, diseases, and disorders. And we do that by helping them financially, emotionally, and with resource support when they are in their desperate situation to get them out of their crisis.
Well, I mean, like I said, I didn't really know what to expect. I trust George because he's got great character and somebody that I trust 100%. So when he told me I needed to be there, he's never usually says that. So I'm like, this is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to prepare for that event, which is a beautiful event. It usually takes place in La Costa Resort and Spa. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, the last 2 years during COVID, we haven't been able to hold it. So that actually led to another, blessing here with the foundation and allowed Beth to be able to write our memoir.
Yes, New Creation. And there was many people throughout the community over these years who've kept telling us to write our story, that you need to tell your story. You really need to tell your story. When you hear that over and over, even pastors from the pulpit, from North Coast Calvary Chapel to Daybreak Church, would speak about our journey to the congregation. So after a while, when you hear that enough, you're like, okay, Lord, we need to get to it and write the story. So when COVID hit, it literally stopped the events. We were the last event. We had our big 5K run walk in February of 2020. And as everyone knows, March hit and everything was on lockdown. But then I just so clearly heard from the Lord, because I'm a very faith-based woman, and he just spoke deep to my spirit and said, daughter, it's time to write our story. And when I heard him speak that still small voice in my spirit, I says, it's time. And everything is so in God's timing, because I really wanted to do it at our 10-year anniversary, but it just didn't happen. Nothing was coming out from my brain to my heart to the keyboard. It was like I was frozen. So it really took a lot of time and devotion for me, pray every day before I went to that keyboard and to start writing the memoir from beginning to where we are 13 years later of how, what came of it all.
So there's so much that you do. I mean, between you have an event with baseball.
I do. We have September. We host the Grand Slam for Mitchell. Mitchell loved the game of baseball, and this was a way to give back to the baseball community. And it's we had the last two events. We've had 60 travel baseball teams participate. This all happened September 23rd to the 25th of 2022, and we look forward to actually increasing the number of teams to up to 80 this year.
Wow! So you get everything done within a couple of days?
Yes.
Is it full? Is it full inning? How many innings are the games?
It's time limit. So this is from 7U to 14U age, 7 to 14-year-olds.
And when they're, what about the innings? How long are the innings?
The games are actually 1 hour 45 minutes. The older kids are 2 hours. So no new inning after that time.
Because I know I've been in those tournaments in the old days, and we had either X amount of innings or you had to be done by a certain time because we got to get through the
next game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea though.
Yeah. It's a way to move the games along. And these are all competitive teams, so they're all pretty good players.
Oh, great. We'd love to be involved anyway. We can help out.
That'd
be
awesome.
a great event. And you're going to be doing a dinner coming up sometime in the future? I mean, when's that going to come back?
Well, as George was the chair of that event, George and Cheryl, they're thinking next summer. At this time, we got the book coming out. The tennis, we always partnered with the World Team Tennis and the San Diego Aviators. We're waiting to see what they do.
Okay.
And so it's up to their schedule too. We're hoping they come back.
So our two big events are a big 5K run walk and family festival. That's held the first Saturday in February every year. And that usually draws out thousands of people to that event, families, vendors, you name it. So we also invite all our families that we're helping out to the stage, and they give their testimonies, how the foundation's helped, and thank the people that came up to walk for their child or run for their child, and so show the support. So that's a wonderful opportunity for families to even raise even more funds on our Mitchell Thorp Foundation crowdfunding platform, which gives them the opportunity, because a lot of these cases are just not one and done. We follow these families for a long time. Some of them, 8 cancer treatments, usually up to 18 months. And some cases are a little bit different. We kept the foundation non-disease specific. So we help children with all kinds of illnesses, from cancer to muscular dystrophy, to brain and heart issues. So you name it, it all affects the family the same way, no matter the diagnosis. So our goal is to come alongside the family, because usually one parent has to quit their job to stay by that child, but those bills keep coming in. They don't ever stop.
Nope.
So they get buried and overwhelmed. And I know the financial stress is enough to put many families, it's so stressful that a lot of them end up either in divorce or separation. But we've been fortunate to keep 100% of our families together and not in a divorce or separation, because we know how important that family unit is to get through something so difficult.
It's an uphill battle. The divorce rates, you hear the divorce rates high, of course, statistically. And then our daughters are teenagers, and they have friends. And there was a time where they were all coming by to visit even here a lot, the studio or the house. And so we got to know a lot of their friends. This is a couple of years ago, but you hear the stats, but to actually see people tell you, I think my daughter brought it to our attention. I don't know if it's that way now, but she said, that you and mom are the only 2 married people that our friends know.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I was like, I knew the stats, but to actually see these kids and interact with them and learn that they thought that we were unusual. Mm. We are unusual, by the way, because of her, but in a good way. But in that situation, it was just like, wow, this explains why there's so much turmoil going on in the world. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell. Well, he was an amazing young man. And I write about him in the book because he wasn't born with a condition. He was a healthy boy, born 8 pounds, 7 ounces. He was a straight A, 4.0 student, very athletic. He must have got that athletic gene from both of us. Brad played in professional ball for the Dodgers, and I was always on track and swimming and equestrian riding. So we've both been I'd consider jocks. We're both jocks. So they got into that, the sports. So he was very athletic, but all in all, Mitchell was, we called him our sunshine boy because he was just so joyful and he had such a sense of humor and he loved to make people laugh. Because I think he liked to laugh. So it was
you both have a good sense of humor. So
yeah. So I think he gets it. And I think he got a rise out of making people laugh because it just gave him joy. And he had so much joy that radiated out of him. I remember his teachers would write after his passing and they, it was heartwarming, but also gut wrenching to read at the same time. But they said whenever Mitchell walked into the classroom, he lit up the room. So that was really nice. But Mitchell, not only that, because he was so talented and gifted, his heart was so big as gold. He was always looking out for the underdog. He would never stand for anyone bullying another child. And I remember a neighbor on the street, I write about it in the book. She said, I never had to worry about my son. Her son was Matthew, who had Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. And he was always bullied a lot. I never had to worry about him on the street when Mitchell was out because Mitchell would stand up and protect him. He wouldn't tolerate that. So he had a big heart even at a little age.
So when did the inspiration, you said earlier that you heard this voice in your mind, was that the inspiration or was it something you kind of thought about for a while?
Well, it's very interesting. My sister, in 3 years after Mitchell's passing, my older sister said, Mitchell brought so many people closer to God and even our own family that I've ever seen or witnessed. She says, one day you're going to have to write the story. And so she got very excited and started putting an outline together 3 years in. And I'm still really kind of grieving. I couldn't see God's fingerprints through it all yet because it's only 3 years in after his passing. And I couldn't see how God was, what he was doing with this and with the foundation. And it really was in my deepest pain of grief at that time when I heard that, again, that still small voice in my spirit, and God speak to me and said, this is not the end. This is the beginning. And I sat up in my bed and I was like, what does that mean? And then my husband was at the church. And at that time, a few days later, there was 2 boys he coached in baseball. One had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and the other had lymphoma. Both middle-class families trying to make ends meet. Everyone wants to help donate. They don't know what to do, but everyone wants to do something, but they don't know how. And then Brad just had that spirit filled him and saying, hearing him say, come home to me. He says, I came home and I had a strong sense that God was telling us to form a foundation, to form a bridge, to help other families going through what we went through. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't anything like that back then. So that's when we started it. We got on our hands and knees. We prayed. We said, okay, God, you're the CEO of this, and we're just going to follow your lead. And when you are good stewards and listen to his word, we were just obedient to that because we really never knew how to do this. So we started with our very first program, our medical and home assistance, and has grown to 4 different programs now under the foundation. And our second program is our healing and rehabilitation, and then our wheelchair conversion van program. And now we even have a youth leadership program where we train students from 8th to senior year in servant leadership skills and training. And then they get out and get involved in all our events. And that is a beautiful thing to pour into the young people of what it means to have a servant's heart and how to give back to the community.
Hold the book up so people can see it.
The book is titled A New Creation. You'll know why I titled it that. I don't want to spill the beans, but midway through the book, you'll see how Mitchell was trying to communicate with us and speaking to us beyond the veil of heaven after his passing. It was a miraculous signs and wonders from what God and Mitchell were doing after his passing. That whole, 2 to 3 months after his passing, just showing us signs we needed to see that he was okay. So I documented it. I photographed it. I wrote it in the book, and people were like, wow, you really need to share that. You really need to share that. It's to let people know, if you're not a believer, that God is real, that he is there by your side, no matter what you're going through. You just have to open your heart to accept him in, because he loves you just like he loves me and my husband and my family. And he's there for us. It's just, we have to be open to let him into our heart.
So usually when people do a process of some type of work, and you've done so much with your foundation, was there anything that came out of writing this book that you didn't expect that happened?
Well, it took 15 months.
Anything that maybe you thought maybe you had got over, or maybe some things that came to you that maybe you never thought about? I mean, because usually something happens that maybe you missed a detail of some type.
Well, it was very healing, and at the same time of writing it. And I remember, because I wanted to start at the beginning, because we wrote the book like a story. My editor is out of Chicago, Ginger Kobaba, and she wrote the book The Impossible that went into a movie called The Breakthrough in 2019. So I chose her as my editor, and we wrote it in such a way that it is a story. It flows. And so people who have read the book right now just say it's wonderful. It's a page turner. I couldn't put it down. So that's a wonderful testimony to have as an author. But answering to your question, yes, there are things as I was writing each chapter, I had to go back in time, and my office had things spread out all over the floor with pictures and photographs, and going to how he was born to all the way up till he passed. And then what happened after the passing, which was from our darkest night of when he passed, to going through the healing and restoration chapter of how we had to heal and come out of it. So it was 5 years trying to find an answer. Mitchell was undiagnosed to his death. We went all over the United States looking for answers with him. And to his death, he was still undiagnosed. And that many people are misdiagnosed or undiagnosed in this nation.
A lot.
And it was a rude awakening for us in the medical system when you have a really challenging case, because he was in and out of different hospitals, so many tests known to man that were done on him, and that kept coming back negative normal, but he wasn't normal. He was in so much pain, and that finally he was in the hospital with myoclonic seizures due to pain. So we were like, what's causing this pain? So it was a rude awakening for us, and the whole medical system, and navigating it and trying to seek out a doctor who could just think outside the box and find and dig deep what was causing this, because he certainly was healthy as can be. We hardly ever went to the doctor prior to this. And so in our thought, the only ones that brought sense to it when they finally told us to send him home out of UCLA and make him comfortable, basically saying put him in hospice and palliative care, we weren't ready to give up on him. So we hired a nutritionist to come to the home, an osteopath doctor, and we started doing more things, more integrative at that time, to holistically heal his body as much as possible, to give him the strength he needed to try to endure until we can still try and find answers. And he actually did. There was a glimmer of hope. I write that in the chapter. There was a little bit of glimmer of hope during that time. As I began to go through each chapter and relive it, there was a lot of pain, I'll be honest, and tears flowing as I was typing, because I had to relive each thing. And but at the same time, it was very healing for me to get it out. And then Brad, actually, every time I wrote, I said, okay, you have to read. So then it put him in a place of reliving it. But I think for both of us, it was a healing process, and also a beautiful, inspirational story at the same time, because what I want the audience to know is what came out of it. Because God knows how to take a tragedy and turn it into something beautiful.
I agree with you.
To glorify him.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's what we did in the end, because the enemy messed with the wrong mama and Papa Bear. I was pissed. I says, you steal and destroy. I said, you will not gain ground no longer. So I took authority, and Brad and I took authority, and we said, we are going to bring more families to know Christ and to have faith and how to walk this journey with strength and purpose. So it's beautiful to see the stories and some of the families we've helped. I mean, the young girl, Samantha, who had bone cancer, and, her mother was beyond herself. She was a single mom and had nothing left, and her daughter was suffering. So her leg was amputated. Cancer was spreading to her lungs, and we were walking into the hospital not knowing what to expect, right? So we just kind of walk in with these two people. Hello, but we're here to help you. And I spoke life, and I got to know Samantha really well. And she was upset that she wanted to get to college. And I just prayed and speak life into her. I said, you will go to college. This is a temporary season in your life. I said, you will overcome this. I said, I don't know how strong your faith is, but we looked around, and we usually ask the question, would you like us to pray for you? And that is our time for Brad and I to lay hands on them, to pray over them, to be with them, to infuse life into them. so they don't have to feel like they're going to, it's all in the mindset.
Oh,
Now, I talked to the mom, and she says she's in college. She's in her junior year, and
Good.
she's like president of this and president of that. I said, well, of course she is. I said, she's our warrior girl. I told her, they're warriors fighting every day for their life. And that's why we call it the Warrior Spirit 5K Run Walk.
Very nice. You have a book signing coming up.
Oh, yes.
At the one and only, what's it called again?
Warwick's.
Warwick's.
In La Jolla.
It's the place where every individual wants to do a book signing from all over the world. They come to that area to do a book signing. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So when is that coming up?
That's coming up, actually, because the book is being released June. We actually can buy the book on anewcreation.org, which will be on the screen. But it's June 26th, and it's from 2 to 4 is my time slot to be there. So that's a Sunday afternoon, so you have nothing to do. Come down and see us.
That was perfect. I was going to ask that next.
And we'll personally sign an autograph, a copy for you, and an inspirational message. I usually write in the book to give you some strength and courage.
Well, I appreciate both of you being here. He's a great support system.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
He's the best.
You guys are a great team, and everybody out there, I want you to, if you have not heard about, of course, the Mitchell Thorp Foundation, you can go to mitchellthorpfoundation.com. Is that on did we put that up there at all? Good. I highly recommend you go there. It will inspire, and anybody that has kids, it really will make you think about your own blessings that you have. It's a great event. And then, of course, I'm going to be checking out this baseball tournament coming up.
Absolutely.
When's that going to be?
September 23rd to the 25th, and we'll be playing it in Mission Sports Park up in San Marcos, and then also Poinsettia Park in Carlsbad.
Well, I'm excited, and I look forward to attending. I love baseball, as you do, and I love everything that you both do together. It's just beautiful. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for surprising me and reminding me that I needed to be here. It's an inside joke. Nobody's going to know. Everybody take care. Have a nice day. And remember, be nice to each other. God bless and take care.